Hey everybody, Judy Seeker here, having our tea time with Judy. That's us. Here we are. I'm a naturopath of 30 years. Happy to have you on my channel, and hopefully we get some people on here to start chatting. Doesn't matter. I know that you'll watch it on my channel regardless and learn, because as women in our 50s, 60s, 70s, there's not a lot of information out there for us for natural stuff that actually work. It's always about supplements. And I'm like, there's a lot more to it than that. And so I'm super excited that I get to chat with you and have this time. And I'll keep doing these all the month of February. And hopefully as the word gets out and we start telling our friends and we get on here, that we actually have some chat time. And if it doesn't work, next we do something else, and I'm already working on that as well. So exciting times ahead. I'm really looking forward to it. So first up is, here's the thing. If you're a woman in your 50s, 60s, 70s, I'm noticing a few young sprouts getting on my channel. Thank you. But I really focus on women in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Why? Because things change in our bodies, things happen. And as they happen, we are always looking for, well, is this getting old? Is this what my last third of my life is going to look like? And I'm like, maybe, but it doesn't have to. So just because there's a lot of new people on here, I'm going to let you guys know that in my background, in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, actually in my teen years as well, I had a ton of health issues, like a ton. I had chronic migraines, chronic sinus, chronic back pain, sinuses, strep throat, gallstones, kidney stones. And that was in my 20s. In my 30s, I almost had a heart attack. Lots of stress going on, working 80 hours a week in my clinic. And, you know, all the stuff that goes with that, being a single mother, going through a horrible divorce, all these things took their toll. And then borderline diabetic, and I had severe hypoglycemia, so many things. And then I ended up getting menopause, getting into traumatic menopause after the divorce. So it was like decades. And I said, you know what, no matter what, I am going to find the solution and stop being in pain, because I hate pain. I mean, you know, if you've had children, you know the pain of having, you know, childbirth, right? If you've had anything in your life, we've all had pain. I just happened to had long stretches of it. And I said, you know what? You know, when I went back to school as a naturopath, I said, you know what, I'm done. I do not want to have pain anymore. I'm going to figure out what is the issue. And I did. And my claim to fame is that anybody who is in pain, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, I could bring them down to a 5 within a week, usually even lower than that. And good news to share was that yesterday I got a call from one of my clients. She ended up, I knew her when I had my clinic in San Diego, California, and she ended up having COVID come back, and she ended up in the hospital with it, and then ended up with pneumonia on top of it. Can you imagine? And then ended up on top of that with fibrosis in her lungs. So they were ready to do a liver or lung transplant. And she called me, happened to be in the her email, I don't know, I popped up, and she said, let me call her. She helped my mother a long time ago, and maybe she could help me. So she did. And it'd been like over 15 years since we've spoken. And so I started working with her, and this woman did she's in her 50s, and she did exactly what I told her. She said, I think I'm going to die. She just came right out and said that. I was like, oh boy, I've dealt with that. And when you have that fear, right? You know, you're in so much pain, and the doctors are saying, you know, we're going to do a transplant, or we're going to do chemo, or we're going to do something really, really drastic. And it's very scary when you're older. And so I just said, let's roll up our sleeve. Let's take one step at a time. Anyway, I got the call yesterday after working with her a couple of months, that she ended up that the COVID, of course, was healed. That we took care of right away. But the second thing was the pneumonia was gone completely, like healed. She just went to the doctors to get it checked, and they said, You don't need a liver, I keep saying liver. You don't need a lung transplant. You're fine. You look great, all this. And so now we're just dealing with the fibrosis part, right? Which is painful. If you've ever had any kind of like fibrosis and cyst and all these different things that could happen to our body, especially as we age. And her stress levels were off the charts. Yeah, so it took care of it. It's kind of cool to work with somebody that was like really determined. So here's something about me also is, yes, I'm a naturopath, a traditional naturopath, meaning I specialize in using herbs and enzymes and then therapies like ozone, hyperbaric. I used to use all those. But I always like to mix and have everybody understand the science behind it, because scientifically, there's some things that we need to understand and know. And then as a naturopath, I'm like, okay, let's put that together, what the scientists have found out, and make sure that we're putting that all together so that we know, well, okay, this is the way the body works. Let's see if there's anything natural. Maybe not. Maybe we do have to do certain, like you have to look at the whole picture, right? There's never just one way of doing something. I don't believe that. I never have. And I've always respected the people who are on their cancer healing journey or autoimmune. If they decided to do chemo and radiation and heavy medication, I'm like, okay, let's, do whatever you feel comfortable, and then we'll deal with what you need to do after. And I've done that my whole life as a naturopath. I just believe in the power of choice. And I believe that whatever resonates with you as a woman, that you know what is right for your body at this time. Unfortunately, a lot of times the medical profession, well, now in my industry as well, people put this fear in you and you're like, oh my God, if you do chemo, it's going to be worse. And then the other side says, no, if you don't do chemo, it's like, come on, guys, let's put it all together and see how we could all work together. But I don't think we're quite there yet. It's just not happening quite yet. So here's what's happened. Oh, that is good tea. I really do enjoy that. This is from Poland. It's got a little bit of rose hips and hibiscus and some other flowers. It's really red. Can you, maybe not, you can't see it. Hopefully you're having some tea. Chamomile is great to keep you calm and relaxed. So here's the thing. There was this woman, so every day I watch neuroscientists, biologists, researchers, these young sprouts. They're usually women in their 40s, 50s, and they're still in the trenches. I'm not in the clinic anymore, but I follow the women that I respect a lot that are still in the trenches and showing not just on research on men, but hey, we've done thousands and thousands of women's studies, and this is what we're finding. And that's awesome. Or they're putting together the whole picture of what's happening. So there's this woman on this podcast this week that I watch literally every morning. I have my coffee and I watch one of these scientists, see what's the latest, greatest, and then I share this with you guys. So hopefully we'll eventually get some people on here where we could chit chat and talk some more. But here's the thing. Dr. Suzanne Devkota, I think, is a microbiome researcher. Now, I love microbiome talks because my family's Hungarian, and 3 family members died of stomach cancer, which you don't really hear about that much anymore, but it is a very painful type of cancer. I mean, they're all painful, but that one is like excruciating, right? And so I realized when I was in my younger years, remember I said I had all these health issues. I said, boy, if I don't figure this out, I felt like I was heading down the road that I'm going to get cancer or an autoimmune illness. And I did not want to go down that road. And I remember I don't like pain. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen? So I have always been into enzymes. Now I went into school to be an enzyme therapist, to learn all about, not only about nutrients, but how do they break down. Like I went all in biochemistry, organic chemistry, like I went all in to learn it, because I believe that if you know the science behind it, you could help reverse it or heal those issues, because your body could absorb the tools that it needs to heal itself. I really believe that the body can heal itself no matter how old you are, 50, 60, 70, 80. I've seen it. So I really believe in it. Okay, so Dr. Susanna Devkota, I hope I'm saying her name right, was recently on a podcast, and so she studies the gut microbiome, right? And she has a very interesting way of finding out what's really going on because she works at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, very famous hospital. And she has access to many, many, many surgeons that she could go and say, hey, this is what we're seeing nutritionally, but what are you guys seeing as doctors, specifically gastroenterologists, specifically those doctors who go in there and you know how they take sections of the colon out? I so don't agree with that, but it is what it is. But she got to talk to them because she's in Cedars-Sinai Hospital. Ladies, this is so interesting. Here's what she said, because she deals with Crohn's, IBS people, all different kinds of ulcerative colitis, it just all the different things. And so when she talked to the doctor, she said that they found that there was always, wherever the surgeon went in, they found that there was a bunch of fat, it's called visceral fat, that protected that area where the issue was happening. So let's say it was irritable bowel, ulcerative colitis, maybe there was polyps, whatever it was. That's where the fat. So that's where the surgeons knew where to go to cut out the section to pull that out, and they knew that was the area that the body was already trying to protect itself. Isn't that fascinating? That the body's always trying to protect itself from this happening. And then they come to find out when they studied the fat that a lot of the bacteria, a lot of the issues that were going on were stored in that fat. I'm like, oh my goodness, that is so interesting. So we have something called visceral fat, which is the fat inside your body. So the person who was interviewing Dr. Susanna was a very thin man, and he said, I don't have any body fat issues. In fact, I always have problems gaining weight, right? And then when they did the special test on him, they found out that he had actually more visceral fat inside him, between his organs, that were causing more problems. And so he had to be very aware and change his diet and all these different kind of things. But what is the takeaway from that? That your body has the ability to protect itself and rebuild and repair itself when you give it the tools. Now, of course, when the interviewer asked, hey, what do you think about probiotics? They said, oh, we see no difference in using probiotics. I just about fell off my chair. I was like, how could you say that? Probiotics have been around for a long, long time. And of course, they went to, eat fermented foods. What else they say? Soluble fibers. We're going to talk about all this. And they said, and this is so funny. They said, we're not sure about if stress has anything to do with it, but there seems to be some kind of correlation. We just don't understand it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, spoken like real scientists who don't make the correlation between the mental, emotional health of a person, especially women, because our symptoms are what? Swept under the rug, right? Oh my gosh, it is so frustrating. So anyway, so let's get into it. So understand this: your body has an innate ability to protect itself. The challenge is, of course, when the stuff builds up, then it could cause blockages, it could cause other issues, then there's an imbalance, many, many things can happen, right? So as a naturopath, I listen to that, because how can you argue that there is no test to see where this visceral fat is to protect, when it's protecting, let's say, your colon. And yet when they go in, they open them up, they see it. It's like, okay, how do you argue with that, right? How do you argue? You can't. It's like, there it is. The surgeon sees it, and they see it not just once or twice. Dr. Susanna said this was hundreds and hundreds of surgeons said the exact same thing. And I'm like, let's not argue with science, people. Let's understand the physiology of the body, which many people don't. And they argue with me all the time, whether it's here or TikTok or whatever. And I'm like, you can argue all you want. If you don't know physiology and how the body works, And they always say, oh, I looked it up on Google. Yeah, okay, whatever. Now we have Dr. Google and Dr. AI. All right. So let's go through the answers of when you have chronic pain and inflammation. Everybody has inflammation just about all the time, especially women. Due to getting older, we don't digest our proteins very well. Never mind all of our nutrients, our fats and carbohydrates. And we have aches and pains. Like you wake up and like this morning, I woke up, I must have slept wrong on my pillow and I was lifting a little bit of weights too much probably yesterday or doing push-ups. I don't know what I was doing. And it was sore, right? And it was like, so, it happens. Inflammation will happen. So you just ice it. Okay, good. We're done. But the thing to understand is you have to give your body the nutrients. And so Dr. Susanna just said a couple of things. I'm going to give you a whole lot more than that. Okay. So number one, she mentioned about soluble fiber. Well, what is that? So in my opinion as a naturopath, and I'm not going to go by brand, those of you who know me, follow me on TikTok and have come over here or have been my email subscribers, thank you for being here. But I don't really push brands unless it's a specific brand that I'm working with them, and every once in a while that happens. And yeah, but typically these brands, they don't pay me. They don't work. So, and it doesn't matter. There's so many of them that merged now, and this is one of them. But this is psyllium. So psyllium, I should have brought my spoon. Did I bring my spoon? No, I did not. Sorry, guys. But this is psyllium husk, okay, psyllium husk, and it's whole psyllium. And the cool thing about psyllium is that it's an herb. I love herbs. They're just so natural, easy to digest, and usually pretty safe. So this is like a particle of it, right? And the thing is, you take a teaspoon of this and you put it in your glass of water and you mix it vigorously and you drink it down. You only need like, half a cup. And you could do that on a regular. The challenge, I think what she was getting at is we don't have enough fiber. And if you don't have enough fiber, it doesn't clean out your colon that well. Next thing you know, you're getting constipated or you're getting issues with blockages in your colon. And so having more soluble fiber, of course, she said vegetables and salads. And I'm like, no to salads, because the cellulose in the plants is very, very difficult to digest, like super hard. I've posted that now a number of times on TikTok, and everybody's always arguing with me. And I'm like, let's compare bellies, because I have a flat belly now at 67 versus I never used to have a flat belly when I was in my younger years, because I was always constipated, right? Yeah, it was a mess. I really enjoy that tea. So here's the thing: is soluble fiber like this psyllium husk. Now don't get the powder. It should be a husk. You take that teaspoon. It doesn't have a taste. It has a texture to it, and you could let it gel up, and you could put it in smoothies. You could put it in your granola. You could have it in your yogurt. Let's just check. So one serving has dietary fiber 25% of the recommended daily. Basically 7 grams. Right, 7 grams. And if you're having good bowel movements, your belly's flat and all that, that's good. So soluble fiber is number one. Number two is I believe strongly in digestive enzymes. Again, the brands is not that big a deal. A multi-digestive enzyme. Eventually, hopefully, I'll get into teaching you guys more about digestive enzymes, but take one 30 minutes before your meals. That will help break down your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Fair warning, if it works really well, sometimes you get a little bit gassy because it's breaking that down, but that just means you're taking a little too much, okay? The third thing is probiotics. I'm like, we need probiotics as we age. And as you get that healthy bacteria, it's going to rebalance your gut, which is going to help you absorb the nutrients, which is going to bring down pain and inflammation. So having a good probiotic, meaning one that has multiple levels of healthy bacteria. So if it just says, like in yogurt, it'll say live, what is the one? Lactobacillus, right? So it'll say lactobacillus or Bulgaria. I'm like, and you got 2 maybe live enzymes. I don't know. You need to have something with multiple, usually like about 8 different strains. That would be ideal. It's not so much as parts per million, parts per billion, but that it has just a few, maybe like even 1 million per part. It just doesn't matter. It's just that you have the different strains is what counts. Okay. So we got fiber, enzymes, probiotics. Got it? Cool. The next one is really got to reduce your stress. I cannot emphasize this enough. The worst time of my life when I was the sickest in my 30s, when I almost had that heart attack, that actually really scared me. I'm like, oh my gosh, in my 30s, I'm having a heart attack. Like, what the heck? And so it's super important to take your stress level from a 10 to a 5. We'll be getting into that in some other talks, but just know this. You've got to be out in nature, go grounding, hug a tree. Nature is the ultimate reset, and you're getting the fresh air, the sunshine. I know it's cold in a lot of places this time of year. I'm here in sunny Florida, where it's 70 degrees right now every day. I know, but I did my time in Wisconsin for 20 years, and I'm like, listen, I did my time, and I was raised in New York, so I have had plenty of cold weather in my life. So if you're in a cold weather climate, it's still important to get out. Even in the coldest winter, I would go out and I would go cross-country skiing. I would go ice skating. I would go sledding with my kids. I would go cross-country skiing was my favorite. Oh my gosh, I love that with my kids. That was a lot of fun too. Great cross-country ski tracks in Wisconsin. Anyway, I was always getting fresh air and sunshine. So it's super, super important to do that. Number 4. Now, I've been hearing more and more of the nutritionists who are still in the trenches finding, this was so interesting. This was another researcher that was talking, and each episode, I'll make sure I'll bring up these experts because it's so enlightening to understand all the research and scientific evidence and what is really working for women, right? And so this other researcher was saying that they have found that when you chew your food more carefully and eat when you're more relaxed and not so stressed out, that you actually not only absorb your nutrients, but you increase your body's ability to repair and heal itself. And I'm like, what? So our grandparents or even our parents who said, chew your food 100 times, right? But the interview asked that very question, should you chew your food 100 times? And she said, no, it's fine to chew it like 20 times. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I even chew my food 20 times, but I do now sit down and relax and kind of like just put my phone to the side, just relax, just clear my head, enjoy the food, right? And just kind of get in the zone. Is like, okay, this food is good. It's gonna be nourishing and that, and then being a little bit more conscious of chewing more. So the minimum, she says, chewing 20 times. Here's the thing though, is don't drink with your meal, because if you drink with your meal, it actually dilutes the enzymes in your saliva called amylase, and that amylase, or it's an enzyme that'll break down amylase carbohydrates. It's actually called ptyalin. And when that is diluted with liquid, so here you're eating and then you're drinking, and you're eating and you're drinking and you're eating and you're drinking. That is like the worst thing you could possibly do for your digestive system. Like the worst. Like drink 30 minutes before your meal, 30 minutes after your meal. We were taught actually an hour, but I've talked to enzyme therapists over the years. They said, wow, if you do 30 minutes, that's okay too. So, so that's the answer there, is making sure that you do not drink with your meal. If you can chew more, that's great, and be relaxed while you're eating. Again, why? Absorb the nutrients so you could reduce the pain and inflammation. You see, I'm not even talking about supplements, am I? Listen. It's not about supplements. I can say that all the time. Okay. The other one that she did say, Dr. Susanna was saying, the microbiome specialist, was that fermented foods are incredibly important for our microbiome. And so the more you're dealing with your microbiome on a healthy level, the better it's going to be able to use the nutrients and do what it's supposed to do in your body, which is to repair and rebuild itself, right? And so fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, yogurt, all those fermented veggies, anything that's fermented will be super, super healthy for your gut biome. There's other information, other research, which I don't have time for. We're already going. See, I could talk like literally all day. If you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. That's okay. Comment below after. That's fine. But here's the thing: if you get the healthy bacteria in there through the fermented food, that's a natural way. Do you still need probiotics? I believe you do, especially as women, as we're getting older, because our digestive system really slows down, our metabolism slows down. So it's super important to get as much as we possibly can. So these other researchers are also saying, well, when your gut biome is cool, your brain health and it starts boosting your brain power. How exciting is that? And then also another researcher even said it helps your heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so exciting. Doing a good microbiome program where you're really digesting your foods helps you on so many levels as we're aging. It's just so exciting. I really love that. Okay, so let me just go through real quick. I have the Forever Young Women's Club open. The link is below. Go ahead and take a look at that. February 15th is when we're starting the group calls. Hopefully there's going to be women who sign up for that. Yes, there is a cost, but it's a whole month program where we get together, we talk. I share a lot of information, much more in depth, specifically for you about healthy aging. So take a look at that. Okay, so here are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you could do to get rid of chronic pain and inflammation quickly. It's going to be a little bit more either time or cost wise. It's going to be a little bit more, but I laid the foundation down of what you need right at home. Eat your food, chew your food well, and having these different habits that will help you absorb the nutrients. But here are the 5 biohacking therapies, because I'm going to be at the biohacking conference in the end of February. And so my whole mindset right now is to give you guys what I know has worked specifically for women. So number 1, I am not a cold plunger. I don't think it's for every woman. In fact, I will not do it. I think it's way too much of a shock to your system. I did it about 15 years ago, but I was 50 whatever years old at that time, and I was in a different place. But now as a 67-year-old, I will not do it. I think it's way too much of a shock. And plus I hate cold water and I'm not going to do it. So instead, there's something called cryotherapy. Cryotherapy, again, all these are in the description box below. Cryotherapy is where you go in for 3 minutes and it goes down to like 100 something degrees below zero. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's I'd rather do the cold plunge. No, you wouldn't. You have to stay in that for 10 minutes or something. No, cryotherapy is like 2 minutes and it just takes the inflammation down. Everybody I've ever had with pain and inflammation, I send them off. It's not that expensive. There's places all over the world now that they have it. You go in and it reduces the inflammation immediately. Will you need more therapies? Yes, but at least it takes that pain down immediately. So that's number 1. Number 2 is ozone therapy. Love it. You could do an ozone sauna. Again, those are around all over. That one you have to Google who has an ozone therapy sauna and go ahead and do that. Number 3 is infrared sauna. That's been around forever to help with, especially with fibromyalgia issues. Number 4 is red light therapy. Red light therapy, again, it's the special, how could you say, it's like the rays of the sun that they've harnessed. And so when it goes in, it just like soaks into the area of pain and just takes it away. I've used it many times on people who have injured themselves from sports injuries to, my mother pulled her shoulder and she's 91 and put it on, and within 20 minutes it was gone. So it's good for acute injuries. I like it for long-term as well, but it's really, really good for acute issues. And then the one that's the cheapest, but is the most time-consuming is hydrotherapy, where you go in the shower and you go 3 minutes hot and 1 minute cold, right? So you turn it on as hot as you could possibly take it. And so if it's your shoulder, do your shoulder. If it's your hip, it's your hip, and go 3 minutes and then switch it to as cold as you could take it, and then switch and for 1 minute and then repeat that 3 times. That's it. Like those are the ones I used in my clinic regular. The hydrotherapy worked really, really well, and the ozone sauna worked really well. So let me know what you think. I'm interested to see if you've heard of any of them, if you've done any of them, if you have questions about them, put them below and we will address it. I always answer all the comments, and as long as everybody's nice and polite and really not there to argue, but really there, hey, let's put our brains together and have a discussion, I'm all for that. Let's do it. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next live.